Knock, knock.
Who's there?
It's Nathalie.
Hi, Natalie. How
Hi,
are you?
guys. Thanks for letting me in. I'm wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
We're good. We're good. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great having you as a guest. So thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
my always a pleasure spending time with either of you, or even both. Then I get a two for one.
Two for one.
Two
Some
for
people
one.
will think that's a good deal and others might not.
Be like, no,
Um,
not too bad.
so today, everyone, we are going to have a great conversation and we're going to kind of cover the fitness industry and many different aspects of it. But there's a few really key things that we're going to dig into. And I'm just going to hand the mic over to you, first of all, Nathalie, and you can just tell everyone a little bit about what you do or what you do right now and a little bit of your kind of background in the industry to paint a little picture before we dive into some of this great content.
After a quarter century of fun and frivolity in the industry, I am back into my roots in Montreal and the South Shore of Quebec. Moved back here after a decade as an executive with CanFit Pro in Toronto, so Canada's largest education and certification provider. I left that vice president position it's almost exactly 3 years ago today to come back home, be closer to family, and continue to support the industry. So I kind of like to see myself as the Cupid of the Canadian fitness industry because I love to match make, professionals with the best careers they can have, leaders and executives with the best fitness pros they can have, equipment suppliers with the best leaders, and all of that kind of thing, and really help us have a thriving industry and have pleasure and longevity in our careers. And in doing that, in a day to day, I still spend lots of time with people who consume fitness, with fitness fans, and with the general public through meditation classes, yoga classes, personal training sessions, lots of corporate presentations on wellness. And so my routine is the absence of anything that looks like a routine, but it's always around
Love
the
that.
joy of movement, the joy of connecting, the joy of feeling what our bodies can do and feeling what our careers can be. So that's in a nutshell what my day looks like these days.
Hmm. Is that enough things, or do you want to add a few more in there? Like, holy smokes! Like, I think it's fantastic, Natalie, that you've experienced so many facets of the fitness industry. Like you said, from consumer to fit pro to equipment providers, education. I think you are a magical unicorn when it comes to someone that has just that breadth and wealth of knowledge and experience in the industry, right? I think typically in the industry, we kind of find our lane and our niche and we stay there and we continue to educate, which isn't a bad thing, by the way, right? But like I said, there aren't that many unicorns that are like, I'm going to try a little bit of everything and just get a really well-rounded view of everything that's available to me within this industry. So I think I know you're a pretty magical guest. So thanks again for joining us.
It's my pleasure. It's interesting because to me, it does feel, interestingly enough, quite niche because it is based on the pleasure of movement, is it based on my wholehearted feeling that any form of movement is an exercise in self-care. And so to support the people who want to participate in that, the people who want to lead others in that, the people who want to host that, anybody that's got that within their vision are the ones that I connect really, really well with. And sustaining this as a career, whether it's full time 2 hours a week or whatever makes sense for you, has always been what I've been really passionate about through connection, through relationship building, through education. But I think making those connections is a big part of it. The collaborative efforts of how we get so much further, so much faster when we work together has always been something that's been a passion of mine.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. And it's kind of cool that you look like that. It's you looked at it like that, that it is a niche, but it's also allowed you to be everywhere and, had
Mm.
experiences everywhere. I really, really Love that. And I think it's safe to say that the fitness industry is actually a lot smaller than people think.
Yep.
Like, I've done a lot of networking in my 20 years, and it's amazing how many people you meet somewhere else, perhaps at a different country or a different conference, and then they turn up like 2 or 3 years later and you're like, oh, I know you, right? And again, you kind of pick up where you left off. And I think it's just this wonderful family unit where, like you said, everybody works together to really improve the industry as a whole, but also themselves as individuals or perhaps as businesses. So yeah, I love the fitness industry for that, because it does allow different avenues of exploration, which perhaps some other industries don't allow, right? And I think then from there you can carve your own path and progression out into whatever you're interested in at that time, or whatever opportunities present themselves.
It's interesting, because it's very, I mean, it's based on the science of physical activity and kinesiology and human movement and psychology and behavior modification and all of that. Yet at the same time, it's a super creative space. And I think that's what keeps us going, is the opportunity to learn and grow and get creative. And it used to be, for a lot of us in the beginnings of our career, so if I take it back to the olden days, no, at the beginnings of our career, it's still a pretty young industry. I mean, we're talking 35-ish years, 40 years tops. So in the beginnings of our careers, it used to be really the creativity came out in movement design and programming and choreography and these things. Now it's in social media and creating reels and writing content for blogs and content for podcasts and these kinds of things. So we've allowed ourselves to now stimulate, motivate, inspire, and support people in a lot of different ways, but it's super, super creatively engaging for us, as well as backed in science. So I think that's a nice sweet spot for those of us that like that art and science type of way to live our lives.
Oh yeah, 100% agree there.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you say, it's still a new industry, and it just makes me think about what it was like to be a trainer before there was even personal training certifications, which is when I started. And we like, how do we find clients? Oh, well, I guess you've got the people that are here right now in the gym that you can see, and that's basically it. So it's changed a lot, and there's a big broader scope now. So yeah, it's funny when we look back and we see what we have now, and there's obviously a lot of online businesses, and a lot of people branching out that network and being very successful, and it just makes me laugh when I think back to the good old days.
The good old days, what we had. Yeah, the good old days when it was, I mean, you did three things. If you were either a personal trainer or group fitness instructor, and in group fitness, you had a choice of like 4 different modalities. Now there's like 400. I feel for those that are starting in the industry that have to think if they have to choose, because I mean, sometimes choice is wonderful, but it can also be really overwhelming. I don't know if I would know where to start right now versus when we started, it was like you taught a muscle conditioning class or a step class or a high-low, maybe a little aqua in there, and that's what you had. And then all of a sudden, like Taibo and kickboxing came in, and we're like, whoa, 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 we're going to do something. And it was radical. I remember teaching fitness kickboxing at the Westmont YMCA. There was like 120 people in there. Imagine the outfit, guys. Remember the outfits?
Yes. And the music.
So there were things going up places that shouldn't be going up there in terms of the outfits that we wore. And we were punching and kicking in preposterous situations, but that's what it was in those days. And we've just, I mean, the evolution of that and everywhere we are now, and that the choice that's available now, which hopefully new fitness professionals and seasoned professionals are doing based on what they love, what they're passionate about, as well as what will create, again, longevity and success for them in the industry. So it's really interesting, that evolution for sure, Gareth.
Yeah, I love it. That actually leads me to a thought and actually a question, because we typically see now in the industry, because we're talking about group fitness here, but it kind of goes for many different roles in the industry, but we are seeing a lot of group fitness instructors being recruited off the floor for a discipline or a modality that they enjoy, like you said. And what's happening is we're drawing in, and it's interesting because we're drawing people off the floor and they're participants. And this is strange for me because this is the opposite of how I got into group fitness. So it always fascinates me to get the viewpoint of, others on how how we need to adapt the skill sets of these people. Because I came from a personal training background and I was thrown into teaching group fitness because it was part of my job, and I'm doing air quotes, to go and teach. And I had a very different experience. And I wonder where you see it, and also Nicky, where you see it from a skill set standpoint. Is there's things we're missing when we're bringing people off the floor, and what do we need to do for these new professionals as an industry to transition them into that more of a coach, from somebody that loved the class into somebody that can coach it very well?
I think I'm curious to hear what Nikki thinks. I think from my perspective, some of the reasons we're doing that is because there is a massive labor shortage in the industry. And, we're talking right now, November 2021, and that's not surprising after how hard hit the industry was over the last couple of years and the closures and a lot of seasoned instructors, retiring. I'm still around, but I don't think that many of us still have a lot of them retiring. And it's tough to bring in new people and that legacy because, if you think about if you're going to choose, I don't know, you tell your parents, you're like, I'm going to become a personal trainer or a fitness instructor, would be the same thing as saying like, I'm going to become a sommelier. And I think of parents going like, heck no, restaurants are closed, gyms were closed. There's no sustainability in that. And so I think the hospitality industry has a recruitment challenge right now too. I think a lot of us, in that service industry are in a weird spot. We have done that a lot. And I've experienced that as a group fitness manager for years of the like, grab that motivated person that comes to class every single week that you can tell their movement technique is on point and turn them into a coach. So in other words, we're like, I'd look at more the hard skills kind of thing, technique and all that type of stuff. I think, and I hope we're now looking towards great coaches or people who have empathy, people who have the soft skills, because to me, that's way harder to teach, and then have them inspire through movement and physical activity. Because I feel like understanding what you can coach and teach and what you can't is something that we're starting to learn. And it becomes less about watch what I do and do what I do, just replicate exactly what I'm doing, and rather do something that is based on those inspiring coaching soft skills, especially with the panoply of what's available on virtual. And that if you want somebody to just look good and inspire you, we can do that for free on YouTube. And there's hundreds and thousands of those, versus take somebody from where they are now and help ask powerful questions, which is a huge part of coaching, as you both know. Help ask powerful questions, feel comfortable having the compassion and the caring to give them the right challenges at the right time, are things that are really, really different. But that is the golden nugget of value of a really good coach, instructor, trainer. I don't know. What do you think, Nikki?
First thing is, I think drop the mic. I think you just hit the nail on the head there. Boom. And I agree, because it's funny actually, because I agree with you, because that's the way I was introduced and the way it was very much in the UK. But then, growing up and being educated in the UK, education always came first. And I think that's something that's just historically woven into the fabric of England. And back when we did our education, it was already then mapped across with the education system, right? So the equivalent of a diploma for some of the education that I did, as that's relatively new here. So for me, yes, it was about get your education first, build up your skills and your knowledge base as a coach, start here, do this, and then it kind of built into now teach group fitness, now do this, right? But these were the building blocks and these were the foundational steps to make sure that you had the information required, and then, kind of go crazy. As actually, when I came to Canada, it was around the other way. Right? It was identifying people, like you said, Nathalie, and then doing the other stuff. But I think that's just a move and shift in the industry, depending on where the industry is at that time. I think, I know I've had experience in both ways. So I've found people that are fantastic coaches and then transferred those skills to group fitness, and then the other way around. So I think there'll always be circumstances where people can do one or the other. But now what I will say is the average fitness consumer wants more, knows more, and expects more than they did 10 years ago. So being a cheerleader for fitness and teaching a class isn't quite hitting the mark anymore. People want the education, the science behind it, and the why, because they're a bit more educated now than they once were.
I wonder about, and so I understand what you mean about the more, and yes, I think they want to have that support for their, I mean, we know now more than ever, and we're learning a lot about it, but how physical activity and movement supports physical health, mental health, immune health. Learned a lot about that the last couple of years, as well as social health. And so incorporating that into what we do is really important. I also think, and I've said this for a long time, and maybe it's because I've always been and will always be along the side of the curvy fitness instructors, curvy personal trainers. Being fit, yes. Being super lean has never been my journey. I've always been an athlete. I've always moved a lot. I've always done a lot of that. And for me, I remember being a group fitness manager and seeing the different body types, even in the instructors, that some instructors inspire because it's what somebody wants to move towards. Some instructors or trainers inspire because it's like, well, they understand me. And if they can look like that and have that body type and move and exercise and benefit from it, then I have that. And I always found that there was a fine line between inspiration and intimidation. And I feel that the explosion and continued sustainability of virtual fitness, either in live, off camera, or pre recorded, and everything that people are getting there, we're finally getting to those people that have always been justifiably intimidated by showing up in a fitness facility because it was never for them. It was never for them. Always super intimidated. I mean, I'll go to like a resort and I feel a little bit funny going to the gym because I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what the people are. I don't know what equipment they're going to have. And I've been doing this for 25 years plus. So imagine like, a normal person, because we're definitely drink the Kool-Aid abnormal people. But imagine a normal person who wants to go to a gym and sees the image that's projected out there and then walks in and sees the image that's projected inside those facilities. And no wonder we've only gotten 15, maybe 20% of the population to actually be active in a structured format, because it was the come to our beautiful four walls, bricks and mortar places. So A, you got to come to us, Canadian snowstorm or not. And B, you got to be surrounded by these people, as opposed to now. I think what we're doing is coming to them, which is part of what you guys do at the Nock Academy, which I love, having had the pleasure of participating in some of the incredible virtual services you guys offer. Is we're coming to them and we're saying, no matter what it looks like, no matter what space you're in, no matter what sneakers you can afford, we will find opportunities for movement. And I think that'll change that. And the big discussion around inclusivity and accessibility and diversity right now will start to change the look and feel of what a professional fitness leader looks like and feels like and communicates. And I'm really excited to see in 5 and 10 years the variety of people that'll benefit from our services.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nathalie. It's a very new approach, and I think we're all still figuring it out, right? We've been through a lot in the past 2 years, and I think that's right. I think like I said, as a consumer, we're in a different place. We want different things. The fitness industry has changed a lot, and we can talk about that in a minute. So I think it makes sense that now we need different people, or people with different skills or upskill, whatever it might be, to meet people where they're at. Right? You kind of joked about Taibo and wearing your thong and everything else, but that's where we were at that time, and that's okay. Right? But we've moved on and we've evolved, and the expectations around delivering fitness experiences, let's just say that, has changed because the times have changed. And I think it's important that as fitness professionals, whether you're coming into this industry or you're already in it, you have to know where we're at this point in time. And it's those skills that you need to learn, or it's those skills that you need to brush up on so you can be the best educated version of yourself. You can diversify and you can meet people where you are at.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with both of you. And I think a good note here, because I know there's going to be, many fitness professionals listening, is if you look around the industry right now, and not even just the fitness industry, but, many industries and many kind of self-care and self-development, there is a lot of talk around connecting to why. And this is something that I think we fed people in the fitness industry for a long time as to why we thought they should be working out, and not actually getting them to connect with why they worked out. So as a coach, ask yourself, if we're now getting people to dig down and ask harder questions about why they're there, because that's what's going to build the habit and consistency you need to, as a coach, develop your skills to talk to those whys. And there is a lot of typical, we could go on about it for ages, but there's lots of reasons why people want to do things. And, like we said, it's linked around moving more and feeling good. So as a coach, we have to start to lean into that. So we, and I know we spoke about this and you mentioned it a lot, Nathalie, with the, we're talking more about what the body can do, how you can feel, like you said, mental health, immune health, and less about, so it's more about the lives and less about the beach body is the best way to summarize it, right?
Rather than assuming everybody wants to lose weight or look a certain way, I think as coaches more than ever, we have to be prepared to listen as well.
Yep.
And not
It's
assume.
interesting. Yeah, but those are the people, to your point of that's what we had, those are the people we can't, if we interviewed or surveyed talking even 3 years ago, the members that are in the fitness facilities, the people we did have access to, and we asked them what their main motivation was, weight loss was there, but weight loss is what we sold. And then they came for weight loss. So we were in a wheel stuck in terms of that. But I actually have a friend who's doing her PhD and looking at the motivation behind physical activity. And she talks to people, I think she said 30 or younger, the biggest reason to continue and pursue physical activity has to do with confidence, self-esteem, self-efficacy. Those are the greatest motivating factors for them. And that is absolutely what I saw from the people I wasn't able to access during the first few months of 2020. At first, because everybody was baking bread and they're like, oh my God, I've gained 5 pounds because of my sourdough start, and fine. So we had a little bit of that. But very quickly, when they said they missed the gyms, when they said they missed the fitness professionals, they missed their classes, they missed their training sessions, all of that, it was I am not sleeping well. This is a massive impact on my sleep. It has a massive impact on my energy. I'm really impatient with people around me. I'm feeling the stress of what's happening more than ever before. And it was all of that. That's what started coming out. And I love the fact that we now have an opportunity to focus on the lives we save more and less on the bodies we sculpt. Because it's not just about us now. Essentially, our clients told us what they realized, we all did, the real reasons why movement was critical to our health and how critical we were to healthcare, not what I sometimes like to call the sick care system, but the healthcare system, and how what we do is critical to the healthcare system. And they told us, they've been telling us for months now what was really important and where the challenges were. And we know, and I'm so proud, and I've had the opportunity to share it once because I've been digging into this for so long, is how physical activity strengthens mental health. And I feel that a lot of people in our industry deserve reassuring when it comes to that, and to develop their confidence when it comes to that, because we all said it when the gyms were closed, and everybody in the industry and the work that I do with Fitness Industry Council of Canada, people are like, yeah, but you have to open the gyms because of mental health, which true. However, when I would ask people in the industry and say, great, tell me more about how physical activity supports mental health, I would get a lot of whoa, hold on, that's out of my scope. I don't really deal with that. And I think it just has to do with fear. And so I've been developing these sessions. I've been communicating this to fitness professionals. And I loved a question I had at an event in Saskatchewan, a couple of weeks ago, where somebody at the end said, what if somebody comes to us and we feel like it's out of our scope? What do we say? And in the simplest possible way, and this has to do with confidence that we have, but in the simplest possible way, I said, copy paste what you would do if somebody comes to you and they talk about, they're like, I wonder if I've got a ligament issue. I think I have arthritis. I'm struggling with osteoporosis. The same compassion, non-diagnostic, here's what I know about what I can help you with, and here's where I can refer you. Copy paste from physical health to mental health. Develop your network, develop some knowledge and opportunities, research a little bit, and then support them in the same way, because more and more people are coming to us. And in the same way that, when we started, somebody's like, I got a bum knee. Now they're like, hi, just letting you know, I've got general anxiety disorder. And I'm like, okay, then. And it was a little bit shocking at first because we didn't used to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
But they come with it now. And the, perhaps younger generation that has been raised in more discussion and more awareness and more comfort around that is coming at it really differently. So I find that it's such an opportunity now for us to grow and learn and realize the positive effect we always had. Because if we talk about it more, then all of a sudden we open up our doors for so many more people to benefit from it. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too to have those conversations and continue those conversations, because you're right, Nathalie. I think we knew we were always doing that. We were always creating a safe space. We were always creating a space where people could be themselves, where they could get from it whatever they needed, right? We always knew that. And I think this is just now amplified, or I guess, highlighted that fact. So I'm curious to know, knowing that you're the VP for the Fitness Industry Council Canada, are there, or is there plans to continue this conversation, working with the healthcare system to make it like a permanent part of the fitness industry, not just a fad that's going to go away when everyone forgets about COVID and we're going to go back to losing 10 pounds again? Like, is there something here that's going to be permanent?
So here's what we learned over the past couple of years through the lobbying efforts that we made with governments, both federal, provincial, et cetera, as well as, our association partners around the world. We became very clear on the reputation of the fitness industry. The reputation didn't change. We were just, we had blindfolds on. We were edifying ourselves in ourselves, thinking everything we were doing was fantastic, and cheerleading the bejeebies out of our own industry with our own selves and our own biggest fans. And then when everything closed and we saw where gyms were and how they were seen by government, and how, not even essential, but preposterously non-essential and risky and uncontrolled it was, really the message we got for government when it came to gyms and in discussions in a lot of different provinces, so not everywhere, but I'll say the majority of governments in Canada and around the world, was y'all, you can focus on your bicep curls after COVID's done. That was pretty much the message. That was it. That's where it came from. And then we would talk to some people that were in the industry and they're like, listen, if this is about people having discipline in their social endeavors when they actually go out and do activities, you want to talk to a disciplined group of people, talk to fitness consumers. Because if you're going to the gym 3 times a week and doing these are, traditionally a disciplined slice of society, which is what we're like, yeah. So it's not about, we've always been clean. I think that, again, people have a sad vision of what the fitness industry is. And some of that we did to ourselves. And some of that was the reputation that was always there. And so the awareness of that and the aha moment of that for the industry, I'm super grateful for. And therefore, the answer to your question is yes. Now that we know that, Where can we move these things forward? What tables do we need to be sat at? How can we be a part of the solution to move the population towards healthcare? Because we were screaming that physical activity is one of the best ways to decrease morbidity and mortality any day, especially when there's a life-threatening virus running around. And we saw the rates of comorbidity and mortality based on, physical fitness and movement and nutrition and all of these things. And we're like, yeah, so let us go to work. We're begging governments to let us go to work. And the answer was no. And the answer was no, because the reputation of the industry has. And so it's an opportunity for us to fix that reputation as an inside job in the industry, because we know that some gyms, and it's always that like one example that the media jumps with, some gyms focused on the bodies that they were sculpting and not on the lives they were saving, and didn't focus on that. At FIC, what we did is we just took our safety sanitary protocols and went to town with it to say, this is what we do, this is what we provide. We absolutely follow legislation, we absolutely follow all of that. But yes, the conversations are absolutely continuing. And there's a lot of work to do. The best piece of news, so number one, we realized what the reputation was, because once you know, you can do better. And now we know. And the second best piece of news is, never in my almost 30 years in this industry have I seen it come together and collaborating. We would meet maybe twice a year with FIC, one time in Toronto and one time at URSA, wherever URSA was happening, which is a big fitness industry event in the United States. And now we're on weekly calls.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Since I think April 2020, weekly calls talking about these things, and the board of directors is more varied than ever before. And we've got we've got provincial coalitions in the different provinces in Canada, and we have people from the larger gyms and the chains, and we've got people from smaller studios. We've got yoga studios in there. We have more female representation on the board than ever. I was the only one. I was the first one and the only one for a little while. And then now we have, 3 women that are involved in FIC's board of directors. And so just the diversity of that, of people from different places in the industry, different provinces, and conversations taking place, it's a big uphill battle, because changing the reputation and changing how people speak about us is there, but we are continually knocking on doors through understanding that exercise is medicine, through prescription to get active, through asking for fitness tax credits for the people who actually get involved in this, through asking for being part of those conversations and developing the relationships with the decision makers, as well as communicating that to the general public, letting them know again and again and again and again that we are safe and that we focus on all those aspects of health.
So powerful to know that that's happening, and any
Yeah.
fitness professional, whether you're seasoned or you're new or you're getting into the industry, to know those things are coming, and they're the foundation around that new approach is there and will only continue to grow more and more. And I think it also speaks a lot to, you mentioned a lot about the diversity, and I think that also crosses over to consumer too, right? Like, we want it to impact people's health and well-being. To summarize everything you said, is we need to understand that, and like you said, the way we market, but as professionals take ownership over that. So not just the gym chains, yes, that could small studios, etc., but how we kind of market ourselves and be inclusive in our marketing, because there's a lot of talk, and my mind goes to nutrition, but it's also fitness as well. They kind of come together. Is we talk about a lot, you see a lot in the industry and a lot on social media about the best this, the best that, and it kind of creates that almost a segregation where people then feel that whatever they're doing is not a suitable way for them to be active and increase their, they're looking for mental health, but everything they're looking at saying, you need to exercise like this and you need to eat like this. And there's a place for that, but we also need to speak to the macro in how it affects people, and understand that we're not for everybody. Like, we're not for everyone as a business, and so are many people out there, but still speaking in inclusive language to people understand that, right? Understand that there's a million different ways to be active and move. There's a million different ways to eat and be healthy. And there's a million ways to affect all those things and try and talk. Although we're talking to our niche when we market, we're still talking generally that there's lots of things out there. And that's okay if we aren't the solution for you.
You say something really interesting in that, the best. So again, putting ourselves in our consumer's mind, which I think we have to do really often. We've told them what's the best for 25 years. How are they not calling BS on us?
Yeah.
Because we change our mind every 6.5 days. I'm putting myself in somebody who's sedentary or inactive or wanting to get active and looking to really, we know the most important thing is trust. How could anyone trust us if every 3 days we decide what's best?
Knew this. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've created this monster, and it has to do with trying to. But again, here's the reality. All that it does two things, in my opinion. Number one, it again edifies the people that are in it, and it's the same people that are doing it over and over again. So you're preaching to the converted to a certain extent. And two, it discourages and builds distrust with everybody else. But to Nikki's point earlier, I think consumers are starting to see the difference. I think they're starting to understand the difference between the people that are actually trying to support them in a way that makes sense and other people that are trying to sell whatever they're selling.
Yep.
And people in the industry are starting to call these things out in different ways. You guys and I'll do it in a way that I think is kind and compassionate, and there's other people that are just like calling BS with colorful language on social media saying enough with these, this is the best thing. And I'm like, I find them hilarious and I enjoy it. And I'm like, it takes both kinds. I'm doing it with a bit more kindness than they do. Some of them on social are like, y'all need to stop because we're doing damage to ourselves. And so, but you're right, the conversation is there now in terms of where this comes from. For 25 years, I've been saying the best exercise is the one you'll actually do, the one you enjoy. And this comes from, my degree in exercise psychology. This comes from me studying movement and change in behavior related to movement and seeing that the number one predictor of physical activity adherence is fun. Yet we've been beating people up for a quarter century. I mean, we took boot camp. We took how they kind of beat people down in the army and brought it into fitness, thinking that was going to be smashing success. And it was a smashing success with the people that were coming. Let's kill people. Okay. And then we're like, boot camp, burpees. And now we're like, shit, we made exercise a punishment. And I'm like, uh-huh. So yes, the phys ed teachers did it because if you show up late for phys ed class, you do push-ups. And so those of us, I mean, when's the last time you said push-up and everybody in your class was like, woohoo! Because more, give me more. And so, we were raised in that in sport teams and in gym class. And then the industry was like, you know what? Let's take that and make it harder. And then we invented burpees and thought that was the greatest idea. So now push-ups have turned into, and I'm like, we get this thrill out of doing something that makes them feel like they're working harder than they want to. And that's madness. It's absolute madness. Yeah. And it's not helping. So, I mean, I remember when I started in the industry, or when I started studying, when I did my undergrad in psychology and exercise science in my master's degree, the rate of abandonment in structured physical activity programs was 50% in 3 months. That was 25 years ago. Today, it's 50% in 3 months. And one day, I would like to retire. So we need to, excuse my language, get our shit together and stop trying to come up with the newest, hardest, best, most effective thing. We work on effectiveness. We think results drive adherence because results drives adherence of the people who stay because they take pleasure in that. But that's 15% of the population. And there's a whole 85% other out there that we can stop competing about and collaborating for. And if we can bring pleasure and fun to them, that is what will drive adherence.
I agree, right?
I forgot to mention at the beginning, burpees are off the table. All right. You just leave burpees alone.
Nobody likes burpees. Nobody likes burpees, and burpees don't like you either. Period.
There is not a sports bra in the world that will make me enjoy burpees, Gareth. I don't care what you say. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying?
Mine's pants.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, fine.
But it's true. I think we did get in that cycle where whose ego were we feeding? Our own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I question. Now we spoke about it like that. Like, were we just creating stuff for ourselves? Because it
of course we were.
Feels that way. Were we really creating stuff for our consumers? No, like you said, that very small percentage. So I think out of that wonderful conversation, just a little spark of genius for anybody listening. What can you shift? What can you change? What can you create to not feed your own ego, to not talk to the 5% that are already coming? Because they're going to come anyway, because they trust you and they love you. But what can you actually do so it's welcoming, it's enjoyable and accessible to everybody?
It's interesting, you know, when there's a partner that I work with here, her name's José Lavigueur, and she's a very famous fitness personality in Quebec, and she's got an online program that she launched a year before the pandemic, interestingly enough, called Mesonfit. And when I moved back here, she asked me to become one of the coaches for one of the zones. And when I told her the zone I wanted to launch, it's cardio rondeur, which essentially means like curvy cardio, is the zone I wanted to launch. And she felt a little bit funny about it at first, because she's like, are you sure that we can do something like this? To which I said, first of all, it's on virtual. So it's not like somebody's driving like how curves was eventually. And there might be a little bit of intimidation when it comes to that, to identify with something that may or may not be a body type that you accept originally. So first of all, it's on virtual. Secondly, because that's the people that are there, and they're to the point of the joke of burpees. And I'm saying that with kindness, but like, for example, I'm filming with them in a couple of weeks and I'm doing all core training standing, because some people who are curvier aren't comfortable going to the mat, going to the floor, getting on their knees, lying on their backs, doing traditional crunches, doing planks, doing these kinds of things. And we can absolutely train our core in a standing way. And so this is about understanding that for me, laying flat on the floor as somebody who is in the heavier side of their chest, it feels like a freaking mammogram when we're doing Superman. And I'm like, it's just not, I'm a fit person, but these are things where I don't know how we ended up talking about these things out, but this is,
sorry,
it's you guys, but this is the, and there's things that I'm like, and there's times where I'm like, yes, 21-year-old super fit young man, that's a great exercise. Here's the way I'm going to adjust it, because I know, and I tell them usually, I'm like, if I do things a little bit differently, it might be because my body type isn't yours. So yeah, having that variety and going towards what the people need and what they want and how they feel, so that they feel good versus inadequate, driving towards them feeling successful and finding fun into it, will get us to other people. There will continue to be, and if anybody's listening now and they're like, I am uber fit and I love doing high intensity stuff for the uber fit, great. Continue to, if that's your brand and that's where you go, then fantastic. We need people throughout the entire spectrum to do other things too. Unfortunately, 92% of the industry was there.
Yes.
For a quarter century.
Very good point.
And so I'm not saying let's not do that. I'm saying let's consider other things. And maybe it's because I'm getting a little bit older and my body wants different things. Maybe it's because the people who connect with are there. But I think that coaching through empathy and compassion versus, I went to a conference, I did a somersault off a Bosu on a TRX flying through the air. And I'm like, ooh, let me do that on Monday. And I'm like, halt, to your point, Nikki. Who is this fun for? Is it fun for you? Is it fun for your front row? Is it fun for your clients that have come 3 times a week for the past 5 years? Or is it fun for that just starting the 7th time they start an exercise program and they're hoping and praying that this is the time that sticks because they're exhausted of the feeling of failure for it not working, it is really tough to begin and sustain an exercise program. So those are my people. It doesn't mean it has to be everybody's people, but I'd like for there to be a balance in our industry of who we're talking to and stimulating.
Agreed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it makes me think of from a programming. So when we talk about coaching skills, all the things we touched on already are so important, but also the ability to program. So we have a demographic within our business that is quite varied, and not necessarily by design. We target a certain market, but that market is, we talk to busy parents that want to move more and feel great. However, that is although it sounds quite niche, it's quite broad too, because there's many people that want to move more and feel great, but they all look different and they all move different. So the advice I'd give to fitness professionals is, if you look at who you've got in front of you, whether that's virtually or live, is you will notice that the people that want to push harder and, let's just say do a burpee, whatever it is, those people that want to push a bit harder and do those things will naturally be doing it. That's in my experience, because I'm one of those people. I'll go in the class and I want to work really, really hard and I want to be competitive and all those things that, are sometimes useful traits and sometimes not, is I will do it anyway. If anyone says to me, hey, here's what we're doing today, here's the ways we're going to be able to modify this for you to be successful, I'm like, my mind goes to, what's the way I can do it to make it the hardest possible thing? Because that's success for me. That's how I feel about it. Those people like me, will do it anyway. You don't need to program, so to speak, to those people. What we need to do is say, how does everyone else get the experience of this? And that's something I've learned, in my later years as a coach, is I don't have to talk to those people, because even when I say, this is what we're going to do today, and we modify it down, or we change things, or we switch it, they're doing it anyway. They're going
doing it anyway.
That rate, and they're doing it
on a
safely.
BOSU.
Yeah,
On a BOSU,
right?
upside down.
That's it. Yeah, BOSUs you can attack all day. I'm okay with that. But it's definitely, it's just something to be aware of as you mature as a coach. And that doesn't necessarily need to be older as a coach. That's where I'm talking from. But as you mature and you become a better coach and you hone your skills, is look at the programming comes into it a lot. And we need to be able to speak to that range. Even if we do have a slightly niched market, there's still going to be massive variety in that. So I think that's just a really important message.
The best cue I had, and Nikki and I had similar training when it came to our yoga training with Yoga Fit, but the best cue I've ever had for that, and I use it now, so I take a lot of this stuff from yoga and I incorporate it into anything I do, is the concept of sensation. For two reasons, it's a really good cue. One, it's super personalized for people. And two, it focuses way more on the feeling of what it is versus the look of what it is. Because different bodies will look different in different ways, which is also why I like to stop doing sets and reps from time to time, so that they focus less on what it's supposed to look like, more on what it's supposed to feel like, which you end up doing in yoga because your head's upside down half the time. So it was a really interesting learning experience for me to finally find that. But instead, and I hope we gave up the concept of like beginner, intermediate, advanced decades ago when we talk about options and alternatives. And I used to say things like level 1, level 2, level 3, but even that, I love the concept of here's what we're doing, here's the exercise, here's what it's meant to feel like, here's where you want to feel it. If you would like today, if you would like more sensation, here's something you can modify in the exercise. If today you would like less sensation, here's something you can modify in the exercise. And so you're making it very, what's good for me today in this place, which means they'll come and they'll always know they'll find a place for themselves based on that. And you focus it on how it feels in your body, because then we're teaching people to move versus teaching people to follow, which I think is very different. And so I love that cue that I learned from one of the master trainers in Yoga Fit, and I use it in everything now, going back to the sensation of the movement.
I love how this conversation has actually kind of come full circle back to the question that you first asked, Nathalie, which is about instructor skills.
Me too.
Well, I'm glad I'm paying attention because no one else is. The first question, which was when we look to recruit, right? Are we recruiting from the floor and what people look like, or are we recruiting people as coaches and then teaching them how to move? So I love that we've kind of come back to this a little bit, right? you were on about programming, having the understanding of programming, giving people permission, and using inclusive language. And then Nathalie really talking to the, when we're coaching, how does it feel intrinsically? Like, take a moment, feel it out, not about, oh, your arm's in the right place, right? Or it should look a certain way. So I think that's really kind of cool how we've come full circle, kind of back to that question again.
What you should have done is you should have written that in the chat. So it would look like we meant to do it, and everyone would be like, wow, that was really smart of them. And then you missed that opportunity.
It's interesting, focusing on that. I think a big piece, and I think it's important for us to share this, because it's perfectly understandable for a lot of fitness pros to ask themselves what the future of the career or their careers are, to ask themselves what the future of the industry is, if it's sustainable, where it's going to go. I know that a lot of us are now being really agile. I know that the stuff that I looked at a year in advance, I'm now looking at 3 months in advance. Like, there's the agility of being able to go with the flow is really important. Having those goals, having that strategy, having those plans, doing the learning, doing the development. But I must let you know that, so I moved back to Montreal November 2018. So that's 3 years ago. And my most successful months as a fitness professional were July 2021 and November, right now, 2021. July in fitness, July was my most successful month. And now, even better than that, November 2021, for two reasons in particular. One, a lot of what I do is on virtual, which means the profitability of what I do has very much changed. I understood my value, because never have people priced value on health more than anything else. This is a health crisis, and McDonald's increased the price of their combos. So for the love of Pete, can we stop undervaluing what health and fitness is valued at? Enough already. I'm done with the nickel and diming. I'm done with the $5. I'm done with the free unless it's marketing. I'm done with you have no idea how many personal trainers I speak to who, when they chose their value, because it's a lot of what I do is career coaching and business development with them, they say, well, the gym charged 75 and paid me 45, so I'm charging my clients 45. And I'm like, pardon? And this is because we really, really struggle with the value of what we do. Everybody's prices increased in a health crisis, and we're health professionals. So in what name does it make sense to now still have an issue? And I talked to some people about it, and they're like, it's really hard for me to increase my prices because I'm worried, because we think about that one client that's going to complain,
Yes.
And we let that one client determine how we price for everything else versus price for everybody else, and then handle that one client. And they're probably going to stay, or if they might go, then you send them to a place that makes more sense for them based on their budget. That's okay. That's totally okay. But for us to get to where we are now and finally value what we do, and so I even did that as a coach and a consultant and shifted everything up. So hard to do anything with me at under $100 an hour. And I'm talking classes, I'm talking personal training sessions, I'm talking anything else. So around the $100 mark is where most of the things start with me. And I don't leave the house. And so if I'm presenting at a conference in Manitoba and I don't leave the house and I get paid a certain amount for that session versus traveling there and everything else, same thing for personal training, same thing for going to the classes. It's made it much more profitable because I'm not moving around. And to me, that's sustainable, because there are some people that want to go in person. There are some people that want to continue on virtual, especially going into winter in Canada. I mean, you don't have to shovel the driveway. You don't have to, there's convenience to this, and it makes more sense. And I'm able to touch people all over the world in doing it in this way. The other bit, so there's two big bits. One, virtual value. The other big bit is I am really comfortable and have tapped into everything I do related to wellness. And so doing sleep hygiene conferences or, workshops for one of the studios that I work with, doing better back for better posture workshops for some of the studios that I work with, or for my clients, or for corporate clients, or for anything else. doing 60-second stress management technique types of conferences, adding that into what I do, teaching meditation on virtual. In what world would that ever have made sense? But there's a group that I work with, and it's a nonprofit organization here that I teach twice a week, 30 minutes, Mondays and Fridays. Been doing it for a little over a year now, and we meditate. And there's social health, thinking about, again, an active aging population that didn't have access to a lot of other people that might have really felt isolation, how we could sustain their social health by doing meditation was incredible. If you take wellness, and again, these aren't things that are like you'd have to do 100 hours of certification on. It's, movement and nutrition and lifestyle for better sleep. Pretty much everybody listening now could spend an hour and put a PowerPoint together and put a workshop together, put a workout together, put a yoga class together to do something focused on that. It's right there. For a lot of other people, it's nutrition. Nutrition is less something I feel is super in my wheelhouse. And so I'm still doing the learning to support my clients, but it's not something I dove into a whole lot. But things around stress, anxiety, mental health, wellness, sleep, etc., lifestyle very much is. And I'll tell you guys, in November, it's probably 65% of my income.
Wow.
So having those things that might be just a little bit outside, I'm going to put burpees on this table again, just a little bit outside of burpees, just a little bit. And if it's like, no, I want to do vigorous exercise with people only, then that's cool and that's your niche. I'm looking at the sustainability of our careers. I'm looking for us to not have to wake up every 3 weeks and wonder if we should get a real job. I think we deserve to be able to do this, and never has the phone rang more than now. So there's oodles of opportunities for us out there based on, growing that comfort zone a little bit and looking into the opportunities that are billion-dollar markets. If you include wellness, sleep, performance in with fitness, they're billion-dollar markets. And the consumers are telling us what they want. So there's nice opportunities there. Like I think you guys and I have talked about this, like snacks for the whole family if you're into nutrition and you guys are focused on kids, these kinds of things. Doing those types of activities and services will absolutely grow your sustainability. Never mind, take it easy on your body. Because, just so many burpees even Gareth can do in a day.
But those things that you mentioned, Nathalie, are important to every single person on planet Earth. We were speaking about talking to that small minority when it comes to fitness, but everybody wants to sleep, everybody wants to eat, everybody needs to do those things.
Yeah.
Right. So if we can look at a way to be holistic in our approach, right? Holistic with a W as well as an H, we are going to cover a broader spectrum and more people. So I think you are right there, Nathalie, that for a sustainable business, you have to talk to the masses and things that people want. And one thing I've noticed in the past 2 years because of COVID is people have had time. They've had time to really think about what's important to them. They've had time to get off the hamster wheel of life and realize my health isn't great. I've got pain in my joints. I'm not looking after myself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So people are actually coming to us now with almost an awakening of what they need. So again, let's, be open-minded and have great conversations to meet them where they are at. And I kudos to you for identifying that and then giving people a space and a place where they can be part of a community to help themselves be a better version of themselves.
Yeah, yes. So absolutely, we realigned the priorities and we decided where the value was going when it came to that. By the way, before I forget, because I think it's important, because I talk about money a lot because I don't want people to think they have to get a real job, and you deserve to go on vacation and not be stressed out that you won't make rent or mortgage when you come back as a fitness professional. This has always been the case. And our discomfort with money is what's making 50% of new personal trainers quit within the first year. the discomfort around money. So we need to get much more comfortable with it. My suggestion when it comes to value is to price your services, your classes, your training sessions, everything that you offer at the value of what it is based on what you feel. And maybe talk to a coach, because most of the people I work with, that increase is 25 to 40%. And that's where we price, because everybody underprices themselves for not much longer, I hope, but price it to where you value the value is. And if there are people that are out there that can afford it, then you can do something case by case versus pricing it lower than that because you're like, oh, but Rosemary lost her job, so I'm going to keep the prices low. Price it to where the value is, and you will find people that can afford that. Our industry was decimated. The restaurant industry was decimated. The arts and entertainment and tourism industry were decimated. But most Canadians are, have more disposable income than they did in 2019 because we weren't able to spend it anywhere. And so we have to step out of our industry and understand where the market is right now and understand that the price of things have gone up. So why not health and access to dedicated, you know, absolutely trained, certified, qualified, wonderful professionals can offer, deserve to price themselves where they need to do. And have a little asterisk. If this is something that is not available to you because of whatever's happened the last couple of years, please reach out. We will come up with something. Price to value, make exceptions versus price based on those exceptions.
Great
so hopefully
tips.
that helps.
Yeah, no, it helps big time. Know what you're going to offer and then price it accordingly. I think that's great tips on moving forward and for sustainable business.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that is, I feel like people's brains are going to explode with all that information. You may have to listen to this episode a couple of times. It's also good for our listenership numbers if you do. So go ahead, write notes, listen again.
So many notes.
So many notes. So I think that's a great place to start to wrap up today's show. There is so much value. I've scribbled down a whole page of notes here. Give me some good ideas. So I'm going to adjust a few things and put a few things in motion, which is always good, which is the selfish reason why we also host this podcast. So just so everyone is fully aware, get to share some time with some wonderful minds. I guess I'd just like to hand it over if there's any last little tips, last things you want to say, anything you want to share with the listeners, Natalie, before we wrap up.
So I would say, please take a moment to have a look to see what Fitness Industry Council of Canada is doing, because to your point, fitness leaders, fitness employees, entrepreneurs, businesses, everything around that, they are the association that lobbies for the success and the sustainability of the industry. So have a look at FIC, Fitness Industry Council of Canada. Web pages is there in French and English. Join and become a member of the association. There's Fitness Pro. There's memberships for Fitness Pros as well as memberships for fitness businesses. So that's the first thing I would say, because they're the ones talking to the government about what you do. So it's important to know what's being said. Absolutely. And the second piece of that, which is, I hope, a really optimistic piece, because it is absolutely how I feel, even especially after what we've done or what we've been through the last couple of years, is that never have we been in a better position to support the physical health, mental health, immune health, and social health of the general public. We will do that wonderfully as we decrease the talking and communicating about the bodies we sculpt and increase the communication about the lives we save.
Love it. So such an important message to finish on, and I will ensure that everything for Fitness Industry Council of Canada is in the show notes, also Nathalie's contact details. So if anyone wants to get in touch, anybody wants to obviously go over and, like you said, join and be part of that and know what's going in the industry, because just like anything, it's easy to sit back and criticize as a professional sometimes. So get involved and, have your say and see what's going on, because that makes it a better industry for everybody. So we really appreciate your time. As everyone heard, you've got lots on the go. So finding some time to share with the listeners today is much appreciated by both of us and also everybody listening. Nikki, any final words? You'd like to have a final word, so I'll hand it over to you.
I just want to say thank you, Nathalie. And thank you from the industry for doing what you do and being out there and doing all the work behind the scenes that people might not see or know about, right? Being a champion for all of us in this industry. And thank you on a personal note. You've inspired me today, and you inspired me with each and every interaction. So thank you very much.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you to you both for having me.
Thanks so much. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. As I said, head over to the show notes. You can join our Facebook page for the podcast. You can share. You can let us know what you want to hear about, the guests that you want us to have on. The link is right in the show notes, along with all of Nathalie's contact details and all the contact details about what we do at the Nock Academy. We appreciate you listening. We'll catch you on the next episode.